going on, guys? You are on the sidelines with the Sideline guys. I'm Derrick.
And I'm Chris. And as you see, we've got a very special guest today, our boy Damian. Why don't you tell him a little bit about yourself, man?
Sir.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I really appreciate it. So I am the host of two different podcasts. One I do by myself and one I do with two co-hosts. The one I do by myself is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. I cover boxing, the NFL, and the NBA on that podcast. You can catch it weekly. Sometimes it'll be one episode that week, sometimes it'll be three, depending on how busy the three sports are. Yeah. The other podcast I do is called the Third and Three podcast. I do along with Jason Fearman and Nikki Jess, two very talented hosts who know their football. I've learned so much from them just doing the show with them, talking football. So if you want that good content in your life, go ahead and subscribe to both The Real Deal with Damian Adams and the Third and Three podcast.
Most definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to hearing some more from you, man. That's one thing within this space is like a lot of people for some reason think that, it's just go to one show or whatever and that's it. The way technology is, man, everybody eats. Everybody can eat. It's not just for one space. So yeah, definitely you guys go check them out. Follow them on Twitter. Give them your handles real quick, Damian.
Yeah, so you can find me on all social media platforms at The Real Deal WDA. So that's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha on all social media platforms.
Most definitely. And we'll repeat that in for you guys as well. So
yes, sir. Chris. Before we start, may I quickly ask something? We're going to get into the weeds here a little. I never do this usually, but as someone who also does a podcast solo as well as this group show, how do you feel like the differences are for you? Like, well, definitely a little bit of that sort of bubble feel when I'm by myself. You got to bring your own juice. You don't got nobody to sort of bounce off of in that way. So talk to me a little bit about that before we hop into it.
Yeah, it can be difficult at times. There's, certain days you might not feel up to it. But once you get in front of that microphone and it's like, okay, I'm back to doing what I love to do. Whatever stressed me out this day, I can get it out from my chest right now with this microphone. And you have to make sure that with your own podcast, the challenge is not being self-conscious about it, right? Because you crack a joke, no one's there to laugh. So you got to make sure that you're confident in what you're saying when you're on the podcast by yourself. You got to do your research and make sure that you have your own juice, as you said, to bounce off of. So when you're doing a group podcast, you're having conversations, other ones can pick up the slack. When you're by yourself, you gotta make sure you have that research that you have and also know what your audience wants. So doing a podcast by myself, I've become a lot better at storytelling, bringing my own life into what I'm talking about. So it could be something that happens in boxing that I can relate to, something happening in my life, and then bring it all together to make my point. And I think it has made me better overall having a podcast by myself because now when I'm in a group setting, I have more to bring to the table.
For sure. How long have you been doing it?
So I started my podcast, I think 5 years ago now. Yeah, 5 years ago. Nice. I started off with a co-host and we were talking, pre-recording about how you can go through different co-hosts of finding who's passionate and who's not passionate. Mm-hmm. So I went through a couple of co-hosts. When I first started it, I was at a regular customer service job, and me and one of my friends just go back and forth all day, emailing, arguing about sports, literally all day.
Yeah.
And I'll be listening to different podcasts at the time. Podcasts are still kind of new to me, per se, as far as I didn't know all the sports podcasts that were out there. Mm-hmm. So I would listen to like Michael Smith and Jamel Hill, and they had the His and Hers podcast before it took off and became a show and everything.
Yeah,
I was listening to that and I was like, man, I really love what they're doing. I think I can do this. I might not be as good as they are. I might not be able to turn into an ESPN show, but I think I can do this at a high level. And the guy who I would go back and forth with about sports all day, I was like, man, we should start a podcast. Yeah. Literally started off recording on my cell phone, like had the record button. We would go and talk, and then it evolved into me getting a mic, me getting stuff on my computer, and it became something that I took more serious because I was passionate about it. He wasn't as passionate about the actual process of it. He loved talking sports, but he didn't like the process of it. So eventually I moved on to a different co-host and eventually moved on to doing it by myself. But luckily, through doing my podcast, I found other people who are very passionate about it as well, and have been able to be a guest on several podcasts, and now have two podcasts that I do. One, having two co-hosts that are just as passionate about it as I am.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
the biggest trip. Sorry to cut you off,
Okay.
Derek. I feel
Yeah.
like the biggest trip for me, whenever I was doing the MMA archive for a while there, I did kind of get not down on myself, but sort of introspective. Like, am I doing this for no reason? Like,
Mhm.
and it's been really cool lately. I've been making a lot of connections, and actually, next week for the show, I'm gonna have somebody on live. So we're gonna be doing, instead of watching the card me beforehand and then sort of coming in with my notes, him and I are gonna get on for 3 hours and watch the whole card together and just sort of analyze that. So it's really cool to get that reward and see, these are people that are interested in what I'm doing, and now I get to make them a part of it. So it's really cool stuff, man. And only wishing the best for the future for sure.
Oh,
Most
thanks,
definitely.
man. Yeah, no, that's the best part about it, man. When you find people who like what you do, like it could be people who want to come on and be on the show with you or want to collaborate, or people that just you have no idea the reach that audio has
Yeah.
until you like do a podcast. Because with the site that I use to upload my podcast to the different platforms, Apple, Spotify, and all that, it'll show you where people are listening.
Hmm.
And it just blows my mind every time I get like someone in a different country listening
Hmm.
to the podcast, like Czech Republic. I'm like,
Yeah.
who knows me in the Czech Republic? Like, who is listening to me over there? But
Yeah.
there's people over there listening to the podcast, like a significant number. And it's like, whoa,
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
is crazy. So you never know who's you're reaching out to. And that's another thing that kind of gives you that juice when you're by yourself. You're like, there's going to be somebody new who checks out
Hmm.
a podcast. I want them to get the best version of me on
Most
this
definitely.
episode. So that's what another reason why that juice always comes when I'm recording by myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Hats off to you guys because I can't do that solo thing, man. I tried. That was not it. I don't have it, man. I need to bounce off someone. So yeah, but yeah, everybody listening or watching, please go check out Damian's show and support them and what they're doing. We'll give you guys more information again at the end of the show. But I appreciate you for coming on and joining us today, Damian.
Oh, no problem. And thank you guys for having me.
Most definitely, most definitely. Chris, go ahead, take it away, bro.
Yes, sir. So it's only right, we got to jump right into Title Town, baby. There was a lot of big
Mm-hmm.
championship events this last weekend. It's only right to start off in MMA like we usually do here. Co-main event first. This was so fun, dude. I love picking these fights every week with you
Yeah.
because we always have an angle. We always try to, play it out. And this co-main event went exactly sort of the way that I planned it out, the way that I saw it going. Um, Sadly enough, I'll admit, I tail my bets here. I'm honest. I did only make one bet, and it was a foolish bet. So I bet the over, which is over 1.5 rounds.
Yeah.
And I missed that by a minute. Literally a minute. I
Oh.
missed it. He got the knockout right beforehand. But it felt good to see that analysis come through and Ty obviously get the victory.
Yeah.
But real quick, what surprised me about that was the shots that he was able to eat in that first round. Like, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he takes after his protege Mark Hunt so much. And I didn't, who knew a chin would be transferable? But
Yeah.
a lot of those shots, literally, where he's on the ground
Yeah.
and getting hammered, like we've seen those shots put out many people before from Derrick Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to withstand that and then put himself in a position to sort of find himself back in the fight halfway through that first round was just it showed me way more than I even thought he would, because I thought he would just be entirely focused on the feet, and if he
Mm-hmm.
got to the ground, it would kind of be over. So a lot of growth there for Ty.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong. No, I said Ty was gonna win, right? But I I I I said that I didn't think Lewis was gonna be able to adjust to what Ty brought to the table, and boy did he ever adjust to that, man. I was impressed. Hate that he lost in Houston again, but he looked like he had the victory like 3 or 4 different times in that fight, man, and just to see the way that Ty was able to persevere through that and that knockout. Lewis was out before he hit the canvas, man. That was a beautiful elbow. So I loved it. Love both their celebrations. I hate the shoey though. I really hate seeing that mess, man. I'm starting to get sick every time I see it now. But it's a good thing to see. I'm honestly interested. I don't know. Where does this put him in the title picture now? Like, is are we looking at the contender spot? Are we looking at interim title because Ngannou is out?
I don't know, honestly. I feel like they can go the interim title route, but I don't want them to. The fact that they did it to him already in a matter of 5 months from when he first defended the title is just blasphemous. It was all about that contract, and if it does happen again, it's all about that contract again. Like, let's just call it what it is. But the only reason I do like interim titles is because it gets these fighters paid championship money, and that's what matters to me. So if it happens, I won't be too upset. I think personally, they already went the avenue of trying to book Curtis Blades. I thought that they were going to try to book Blades versus Gane. So who knows, man? Maybe they go that Gane versus Ty route now that he's sort of inserted himself, because he's already ranked third now. There's not too much room for him to grow there before he finds himself in a title shot. So I was surprised, honestly, looking back now. Obviously, it makes sense because he pulled through and it was able to get the win. But the fact that they even gave him an opportunity that high up the rankings, sort of really put him right in that spot much faster than we thought he would be there. And just thinking back on recent fights, the growth is there, it's tangible. But there's still a lot of matchups we haven't really seen him in. So definitely still a lot of questions. But his upside, I feel like, whenever you're banking on a win from him, that's what you're expecting. You're expecting him to come in and get better, and he has been. So that's been great to see.
Yeah, most definitely.
What were your thoughts on that one? Yeah, Damian?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Ty's, man. I first saw him against Greg Hardy, and him coming out to Spice Girls, I was like, I'm hooked. like I'm a fan from this point forward. And in that fight, he took a big hit from Greg Hardy. It looked like he was about to go out. And next thing you know, he put Greg Hardy out. He had Greg Hardy holding his eye on the ground. I guess that's something that he's good at, is being able to recover from them big shots. But I didn't think he would do it from Derrick Lewis. Like you mentioned, the time when he was on the ground and Derrick Lewis was just rearing back and hitting him with those right hands over and over again, and he's just taking it and coming forward. That takes something else, man. That's why I have such a huge respect for UFC fighters and boxers, because once Lewis hits me one time on one of those, I'm done. I'm on the ground. I'm crying. Like get me out of here. Like I am
filing a lawsuit.
So the fact that he was able to recover from that and then get the knockout, like you mentioned, Derrick, with a beautiful elbow. He set it up so well too, because at that moment, right before the elbow, Lewis was coming in and throwing some wild shots, and he just stood in the pocket and was able to connect with Lewis. And to be able to stay in the pocket and swing at somebody swinging at you, because a lot of fighters are good at defending and then throwing, or throwing and then defending, but not doing it at the same time. So for him to be able to maneuver and defend while also countering to set up that knockout against somebody who's as powerful as Lewis, who's got the most knockouts in UFC history, right? So for him to be able to do that, man, you got to give Tyler respect in the world. I think his popularity from the Greg Hardy fight led to him getting this big opportunity, like you mentioned, Chris, of going up this far in the rankings. So I'm very excited to see what he does going forward.
Yeah, man. And he followed that up too. He came out to Girls Just Want to Have Fun with this one, which I was just hilarious, man. Just a unique cat, different, and it's always great to bring different faces up to the forefront. I feel like UFC is clearly behind him now. Like they're dropping a whole bunch of merch for him. So don't buy that, by the way. Go to his personal merch and buy that, because that goes directly to him. But real quick, something I want to mention about that too, and then we can move on to the main event. But if you listen back to the audio, they were calling for that elbow a lot of times, and what they were saying was beautiful too, because he was grabbing the single collar tie, holding Lewis's face almost, and they were saying elbow your hand. So like really pushing through and sort of finding the target. It's not even about your opponent. You're already holding them. If you're following through where your hand is, you're going to catch them because you're holding them. So it was just really cool to see that adjustment. They were calling for that since earlier in the fight, and for him to be able to find it in that crazy chaos, like you said, just really impressed. I feel like I will agree. I think Derrick Lewis's kryptonite is guys like Ty, guys that, they're striking's first and they don't want to wrestle him. Because surprisingly, everyone comes in trying to wrestle Derrick Lewis. Even Ty did it a little bit. Because everyone assumes that's his weakness. But if you look at a lot of the knockouts he gets, they're from ground and pound, from guys that are trying to take him down. So just really good adaptation and sort of very smart game plan, which I was the most surprised by. So a lot of upside for both guys still. I feel like at heavyweight, man, 30, what is Derrick Lewis? 38. 38 is young. And that doesn't sound right for conventional boxing folks. That's super old. But in MMA, that you're just getting your feet wet, it seems like. So I think Derrick Lewis has a lot of room to bounce back. But yeah, keep him away from Houston, man. I think there's something wrong over there. It's too much people asking for tickets or something.
I'm too superstitious at this point. If I'm Lewis, I'm not fighting in Houston anymore at all. There's no way.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a bad luck situation. Maybe he needs to go back to his original hometown. I'm from New Orleans. That's why I root for him and want him to win. Maybe he needs to go back to his original hometown and fight there. Maybe that'd be a better choice.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's only right we go into this spectacular main event. I called a lot of this fight. I will admit, I feel like I love my analysis on this one because down to Rob getting dropped in the first round and then coming back after that, I feel like a lot of the analysis was on point with this one. Which even if the pick doesn't come through, that's what matters to me. But this fight played out in a lot of ways I didn't expect either. I feel like Adesanya's takedown defense is on another level. Something that I didn't anticipate as far as being that good at keeping him off, even when he was in very, very deep. The commentators talk about this a lot. I feel like because of his height, it just makes it so difficult to keep him down. They always use the analogy. It's like trying to take down a table. Like there's always a leg that sort of hits the ground first that stops you from getting on top of them flat. And Adesanya's getting really good at that and scrambling over that. I'm not gonna lie, probably because I was biased. I scored this for Rob Whittaker. When I rewatched it, I still scored it for Rob Whittaker 2, 4, and 5. Now I'll explain my score. The main reason why is because in the scoring criteria, yes, sort of forward pressure, all those things matter, but the main criteria is damage. And although, of course, Adesanya's leg kicks and body kicks were adding up, I believe he did break one of Rob's ribs with one of those body kicks that came out after the fact. But what I found really, really surprising was a lot of the jabs, a lot of the 1-2s weren't being landed by Adesanya. They were being landed by Whittaker. And sort of kept trying to disengage and get back to that kicking range, which obviously very, very smart, very tactical move. But me personally, I feel like the more damaging strike when you compare the two, a leg kick versus a strike that clearly lands flush on the chin, I feel like you have to give that to Rob. But you can't really get mad either way. It's not a robbery. It was such a close fight. And I think Adesanya is going to find himself in this position a lot, where unfortunately there's going to be a lot of people, criticizing him, even though his technique is what he's leaning on. And I find it beautiful to watch. But a lot of people, it's boring. It's this, it's that. I don't agree with that. At the same time, though, I will say he's not doing himself too many favors when it comes to the judges' decisions. When he shows up the way he did against Rob or the way he did against Yoel Romero, there's sooner or later he's going to end up on the wrong end of one of those decisions. But what do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, man. I think something you pointed out with his takedown defense, it's slick. I'm not sure if you guys feel this way, but it slick felt to me like it was almost reminiscent of John Jones's takedown defense, because the same thing is the height, the length of the arms and legs. It's really hard to take him down, and I think that one of the biggest things about this fight was mainly the fact that Adesanya. I think we talked about this last week, but Adesanya has more patience. Like he's not rushing anything, and he's picking his spots and hitting very, very precise strikes. So I actually saw it. I saw it 4-1. I think 4-1 for Adesanya, mainly just because it was more control. Those leg kicks were wearing him out. The takedown defense, and even when he would get taken down, the ability to pop right back up, it's next level, and I don't think that many people are able to do that. He was just convincingly won that fight. And one of the things that they talked about this on the broadcast, but they kept talking about him holding his right hand, and I don't understand how like, and I know I talked to you about this, but how they were saying like he looked like his hand was broken or something, like his hand was hurt. You could clearly see his hand wasn't hurting because every time he would push off the mat, he's pushing off with his right hand. So if anything's broken, you're not pushing off with your right. And I'm sorry, you're not doing that. So that was one of the things I found very interesting about this fight, because this is not the first time he's held his hand when he's facing off with his opponent. So I found that very interesting. But Izzy, like I said before, is evolving, and he continues to get better every fight. So it's almost as if like there's no one else after Cannonier. I don't know who we're talking about that could actually fight him at middleweight. I don't know. I don't know what the matchups would be, because it seems as if he has all. It actually felt this way like 2 years ago, like he already swept the division. So it still feels that way, and I don't know who else we're talking about at this point. That's obviously the next matchup that we're going to get, but I don't know who else is in line.
That's a good point. But talking about the fight itself, I scored a 3-2 for Stylebender. Like, watching him fight, I could see how some people like myself, I consider myself a casual fan, can say that he's boring, because it seems like with his natural talents, he should go for more knockouts. Mm-hmm. Like, he should be more aggressive, go for more knockouts. I feel like if he really put the foot, to the gas pedal, he can get more people out of there quicker. I know that he knocked out Whitaker before, and Whitaker was going to come in this one with adjustments. But it seemed like once Whitaker started throwing that double jab at him, he didn't really know what to do with it. Yeah. And it seems like that would be an easy adjustment to move out the way, especially with how athletic he is, to move out the way of that and catch Whitaker coming in, especially because at times he got kind of predictable with it, where he was coming in, he was going to throw 2 or 3 before he backed out of there. He wasn't going to come with that follow on the power hand. So if you know he's not coming with that power hand, why not come in there, get close to him, and then explode with your power, or come with a knee, or whatever it is that you do, because you have so much that he can do. Why not unleash that and show it? So it seems like at times he could be a little too cautious. Kind of reminds me, I know they're not the same type of fighter, but when Woodley was in his prime, at times he was too cautious. Yeah. And it was like, Woodley, you have so much power, so explosive. Why not be more aggressive and just go after it? I understand when you be aggressive, you take the chance of getting knocked out yourself. But if you're so talented, you could be more aggressive and still defend yourself. So that would be my only, I guess, nitpick about Asadia's style. But Whitaker fought a good fight. Yeah. He just doesn't have enough for a style bending. Like you said, the takedown defense is impeccable. The way he knows his range as far as exactly when to kick, when to feint, when to go in and out of the pocket. He's really gifted, man. I just hope that people don't lose sight of how gifted he is, because he's not getting the knockouts against every opponent.
Yeah. It's almost like John Jones.
Yeah. Like, it's hard to gauge how good they are, because in a lot of ways you kind of feel like they're fighting down a little bit based on their opponent. What I found real interesting is if you guys look at his kickboxing career, you'll see all of that. He lets go. Like, he's throwing a lot of high kicks. And I think that the threat of the takedown is what really sort of neuters his game in MMA, really sort of slows him down and makes him stay behind his devices in that way. I agree. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity because of the skill set he has. Like, he shifts through range. You know how hard that is as a boxing fan, to be able to keep your balance and shift stance in range. You're giving your opponent so many different looks. It's hard to know. And that's a part of the holding the hand too. As a boxing fan, I'm sure you know a lot about this, but for someone hit that tall, it's surprising that his jabs aren't straight down the pipe. They're up jabs. And for someone that tall, that's unusual, because a lot of these guys are shorter than you. But that trajectory, it's not something it's conventional. It's not something you're used to seeing in training. And it just comes from a different angle. So a lot of the times, he's able to open up like he did against Brunson, where he lands that punch straight, and Brunson Like, you could tell by the way he's pulling back, he feels like he's out of range.
Yeah.
So I agree, there was a lot of opportunities where I felt like he could have angled off against Whitaker and really landed those big hooks that he landed in the first matchup. But I think the concern of the takedown really sort of made him stay within himself, which is understandable. At the end of the day, it's all about winning and getting that second check. And he's the first fight on a big new contract. You want to make sure you get that out of the way. But I think the attitude and the way he's been fighting, I think it matches what he's been saying, because he's been saying, I want to defend the title 5 times a year. And that's a lot for anybody in any sport. But in MMA, it's almost insane, unheard of. Like 3 fights in a year is a lot. So maybe that's a part of it. In order to sort of try to meet those goals or try to set those goals, you gotta rein yourself in a little bit so you get the results you need to get. I disagree with you entirely. I think this division is wide open in a lot of ways that people don't anticipate, because there's so many young guys coming up. We talked about this earlier this year. Nassourdine Imavov, write this guy's name down. I promise you he'll be fighting for the title, if not by the end of this year, next year. He's someone that I can see him being a real threat against Adesanya, because he's very technical on the stand-up, and he also has a very good ground game. Another guy that comes to mind is Strickland. I think Strickland is the perfect matchup for Adesanya to get a high kick knockout. He sort of leaves himself up there a lot when he's throwing his jabs and 1-2s. And I kind of want to see the guy get knocked out anyway, because he's a fucking weirdo. So I'm hoping that one comes through after the Cannonier fight. But don't sleep on Cannonier, man. I slept on him this weekend. I picked Brunson. And that broke my parlay. If that didn't happen, I would have been set to make $100. But no, Cannonier did his thing. And after taking a beating in the first round, like, let's call it what it is, he got dropped standing, and he got taken down multiple times, and got hit with that ground and pound. So he shows he's resilient, and just his story in general, man. Like, I saw him make his debut at heavyweight. Like, that's huge. The fact that he was able to come down, really make a lifestyle change his body composition entirely, just jacked at 185, and just has a different attitude about him too. Like, you could feel, there's a lot of changes he made in his life that brought him to the point he's at now. And that's another guy that's a little bit older than you would think, but don't sleep on him. I feel like that matchup specifically is bringing up a lot of stylistic problems for Adesanya.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it, because I think it's going to be a very high energy, high paced fight. But like I told you last week, I'm not betting against Adesanya. I'm just not betting against him. It's almost the same way with Amanda Nunes. I can't bet against her. It's just, until you see that person lose like consecutively, I can't do it. Like Tyron Woodley, no, just hang it up. I don't want to see him back. I don't want to see him again. Because it's just, but back in his prime, it was like that's one of those guys you just don't bet against. That power is just, it's unpredictable, and his timing was really good too. So yeah, Adesanya that's a good point that you made, though. I forgot about his goal with defending the title that much. That would make a lot of sense in terms of why he would be holding back a little bit and being more reserved and patient and more precise with the strikes, to make sure that he's able to meet that, because that would be something that's historic, if you're able to do that, especially do it multiple times. So yeah, I'm with that. That makes a lot of sense.
For sure, man. Yeah. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to touch on this card. There was a lot of bangers early on. Like, there was a lot of fights that there was crazy comebacks, which you love to see. But I feel like for the most part, we touched on everything that was super exciting from this week. Something to look forward to for this week. Obviously, there's not a lot of big fights this weekend, but Jamal Hill, this is somebody who has only tasted defeat once in the UFC, and he went out like a soldier. He got armbarred, and he let that thing snap. He didn't try to quit. And it was one of the nastier submissions I've seen. But he came back very quickly from that and got a big knockout against Jimmy Crute, who I'm personally very high on. I feel like he's underrated at light heavyweight, Jimmy Crute, and he took him out early in the first round, broke his nose, busted him up with one sort of counter hook that after the fight, you're looking at Jimmy Crute's face. He's all swollen. You could tell his nose was broken, and you're like, that was from that. Like it didn't seem like it was that impactful of a strike. And he's coming up against someone that's a little unorthodox, and Johnny Walker, crazy, throwing a whole bunch of random stuff.
Yeah.
But we've seen in his last fight against Thiago Santos, he's trying to, rein that in a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really interested for this week's main event. I feel like even though it's not getting the hype I feel like it deserves, I feel like there's a lot of potential for, a breakout moment for either of those guys.
Right.
And it was just really cool to see, just quickly to mention this, Jamal Hill brought his son to the event this week. And he's been talking about how, it's been helping him with his travel anxiety, having his kid there with him. And in that specific cage that he's fighting in right now, he's 3-0 with 3 knockouts in the Apex. So I'm really interested. I feel like this weekend, they're trying to set him up big to get a big spot. And I think the matchup is fitting for that too, given he's so precise with the striking. So something to look out for this weekend too. But next up, as always, we got to talk about the big one. We can't act like there wasn't a Super Bowl this last weekend. There's so many angles that we could sort of start off talking about this one with.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to start off with the meat of it. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
We already know who won. Rams won 23-20. What do you guys think of that sort of ending sequence and how the refs played that out and what it meant for the Rams being able to, have multiple tries at the end zone, and just sort of the backlash of that?
Yeah. Go ahead, Damon. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the first penalty that came to mind was the holding call that was on Logan Wilson, the linebacker, on Cooper Kupp.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a little ticky-tack, right? They saw a linebacker keeping up with Cooper Kupp. It was like, oh, there gotta be a penalty. Like it can't be. There's no way he's keeping up with him.
Yeah,
gotta be a penalty. And if you watch it, he touched him. He didn't hold him. Like he didn't hold him back from going anywhere. And the way the game was being called all game, you can't start calling that then.
At the end.
I really had a problem with that one. Now the one that happened later in the series on Eli Apple, that one was more egregious. Like, okay, I see him literally holding him from going to a certain place. You call that. But the first one that really set them up shouldn't have been called, because if they don't call that, it's 4th down and they're at like what there was like 10, 11 yard line at that point. So you got to go in from 10 yards away instead of the 1 yard line on 4th and goal. That changes everything.
Yeah.
The entire game. So that was a big penalty right there that I thought should not have been called. But then to have it set up to where they do the fade route to Cooper Kupp and they have Eli, I'm amazing in my own head, Apple. Like, why do you have Eli Apple 1-on-1 with Cooper Kupp in this situation?
Yeah.
If they run the ball in, fine. But I'm double covering Cooper Kupp. You could do the old Calvin Johnson, have 2 people like it's a punt return on him, just sitting there to jam him, ready to go. Like, I'm not letting Cooper Kupp beat me. You've been throwing the Cooper Kupp the whole drive, the whole 4th quarter. It was all Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Double cover him, and then make sure that, okay, if they're gonna run it in, they get in, and we got time to have our game-winning drive. But they're not gonna beat us this way. So I'm kind of disappointed that they allowed that to be the touchdown that put them out of this game.
Yeah. Real quick, just to throw it up to you, Derek, too. Another underrated part of that is the Rams wouldn't have had to go for the touchdown there if Matt Gay made that what is that called? The PAT, the extra point on the touchdown earlier. It would have been in range to sort of go to overtime.
Yeah.
So the way everything played out was very interesting. I also love that the call that I think set up that call still hasn't been talked about. So I'll bounce right back to that whenever you're done, Derek. But go right ahead. Tell us what you think about that one.
Yeah, I agree with what Damian said. I'm you can't have a clean game. Majority of the game there's really no calls. I mean, there weren't. I don't even, outside of the face mask on Jalen Ramsey, I didn't really see anything that was egregious throughout the game anyway. So when you get down to the end of the game and start calling the game like that, it's just, I think there has to be some point where the NFL gets the officiating done properly, because things like that game was really good. It was a really good game, especially with Odell going down that early. For them to still have a pretty good game anyway, to then for it to be kind of marred a little bit with those calls like that, that's messed up. But Eli Apple was predictable. he, was, he was predictable, man. He said he before the game he wanted to cover Odell because he knew his tendencies and all that stuff, which dumb as hell. But um, for him to be on Cooper Cup was poetic. For him to be the one that basically outside of the refs, he cost them the Super Bowl. So, it was very poetic for that. But I thought it was a good game, man. I thought it was like we discussed with Jonathan last week. The Rams needed to win this one. They needed to because going into the off season, it's going to be very difficult for them to bring a lot of guys back. So you do all those moves, you make sure that's the right thing, the right outcome. So I'm glad for Odell. I'm glad for Jalen Ramsey. A lot of guys on that team, Matt Stafford, even though I would like to talk to y'all about that because there's been a lot of talk about him being a Hall of Famer. But I'm glad for a lot of guys on that team to win. So it was good. That was good. I loved it. Halftime show was amazing. That was yeah, in the fields.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
I just feel like in a lot of ways the most underrated aspect of that last play, and people don't like to admit it, but I think this is true. That first drive of the second half, where T. Higgins got that big 75-yard touchdown. It was a huge missed call on Jalen Ramsey, where he got a big face mask.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a lot of ways, the officials try to find their spots to sort of recorrect the steering wheel. They want to, they feel like they made a mistake earlier, and they try to find some things to sort of make that wrong right. And I feel like there was a little bit of that in that last sequence, where I agree with the second penalty much more than the first one, like you mentioned, Damian. But I feel like at that point, it was almost like we have to call it for them because we missed it earlier. In a lot of ways, what I found the most interesting part about this game is, it played out the way it played out. And thankfully for the Rams, they needed that. If they would have left that, I feel like they don't barely got any fans now. If they would have lost that game, all their fans would have been gone, like done for. So what I find super interesting though is even as the way the game played out, you don't leave the game feeling like they're the better team, which is so strange.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because once Odell went down, they couldn't get anything going. And it kind of felt almost like that Tampa Bay game again, where they were up early, they had it all, and then something didn't go their way, and then out of nowhere, just all the momentum is on that other team's side, and they can't find a way to stop the bleeding. They couldn't get their run game going all night, and I was really surprised by that because they were able to mix it up all postseason before this game and get at least 60 out of Cam. So it was just a big sort of change of pace. I was surprised that the Bengals showed up in that way to really, focus on stopping the run and making Stafford make those plays, which I think is the right decision against him. But long term, man, especially with the fact that Odell went down, it was already going to be hard to get him back next season. And you almost feel like if they don't have him, there's no way they end up in this spot again. So it's so weird because going into the Super Bowl, this wasn't really the matchup any of us expected. Coming into this season, me and Derrick we both had the Bucks being in it, and then he had, I believe, the Bills. I had the Chiefs. So the fact that it played out the way it did, sort of a big surprise to everyone. But in a lot of ways, I don't think the Rams are going to be anywhere near the favorites to win next season. And it feels wide open. It feels like even the Bengals in a lot of ways still haven't really hit their ceiling in the way. I was saying this before coming into the Super Bowl. I really feel like postseason wise, they never played some of the games that they had during the regular season where you're like, this team is great. Like they didn't have those standout performances, especially from Joe Burrow. Not that I'm being critical of him. I feel like he did a great job, especially the second year, just insane. The things he was able to accomplish. But I just feel like the upside for that team is so much higher now. And they have so much to build off of this season. And I feel like for the Rams, it's the opposite. You know, they have a lot of, you know, sad faces because they're coming to grips, you know, without Odell, we saw how that looked. Yeah. And if they're not able to keep all those, you know, Hall of Fame pieces on the defense together, then, you know, what is your glue here? I don't know. Yeah. It's gonna take Stafford to step up in a big way for them to find themselves back here again next season.
I agree with that. I think one aspect of it though is that they do have Robert Woods coming back. And you know, your tight ends are coming back. So like, I think they'll still be in the mix of things, but the way that Odell was playing for them, especially toward, you know, toward the end of the season, it looked as if he was the complementary piece to Cooper Kupp, like the perfect complementary piece to him. So yeah, I highly doubt that he's coming back anyway. I thought that before, but at this point, I definitely don't see that happening. It'd be interesting to see where he does go. There's a lot of teams that could utilize him, but Stafford, like I told you before, I thought that had the Rams had him 2 or 3 years ago, when they did go to the Super Bowl, they would have won that Super Bowl too. I think part of the reason why he didn't really look as good as we have seen him over the course of the season is because the run game was neutralized. You know, I think that played a huge part into why he couldn't really get a lot of things going. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to them next year. But the Bengals, you're not hanging your head if you're the Bengals, whether you're the organization or the fans. You're not hanging your head because there's a lot. All they have to do, their glaring need is offensive line. That's it. They have, I mean, you probably would want to replace Eli Apple, but those are the only two things I can say that you probably need to go ahead and upgrade. You upgrade those positions. This team is. What's to look for, Chris?
I'm in this division. I'm a Ravens fan.
Yeah.
Everyone loves to rag on Eli Apple because he talks a lot of shit, and I respect it. But as a player, that guy's good, and I respect him regardless of, you know, him being on the losing end of a lot of those plays. I feel like he isn't their biggest problem on defense. I think losing a lot of their pass rushers throughout the postseason really put them in a bad spot. And they were still able to fight around that. So I really feel like he doesn't get a lot of the due he deserves because of the kind of player he is, which, hey, you set yourself up for that. But just watching these games, you know, he does a lot more than a lot of people give him credit for. Just that's why I was like, hold on, like we don't got to call for his job here, you know.
Well, see, he played against my Eagles. Okay, when he was with the Giants, we got a good taste, and it was you see why he was, you know, why he got passed up like that. I mean, it's not like, I'm not saying that he's it's not like you're putting your grandmother out there, right? But he's not afraid of him. You're just not afraid of him.
I'm a Saints fan, so we had him after the Giants did, and and he was not good for us. Like he had his moments where you could see the potential and see why he was a top 10 overall pick. Yeah. But then you also had those moments where you're like, okay, this is why the Giants were willing to let him go.
Yeah.
So then for him to come at both Giants and Saints fans after he finally made some important plays, it's like, come on, bro. Like, really, that's what you're doing now? Like, you're going to come at us? It's not like Saints fans are just mean in general. Like, if you play good for the Saints, like, you'll be treated well forever. Like, Tracy Porter is not going to be known amongst most NFL fans, but he made some big plays for us the year we won a Super Bowl. He's set for life in New Orleans. He ain't got to pay for nothing. He's good to go. Yeah. And he's not a Hall of Famer. He wasn't a Pro Bowler. He just made a few good plays for us in important times, and he's set for life in New Orleans because of that. Eli Apple could have been the same way. Think about Eli. After you think about his name, Eli Apple with the Giants. If he was good in the Big Apple as Eli Apple, he'd have been set. It'd have been all the nicknames. He'd have been good to go. If he was anyway near decent, he'd have been set in New York.
Yeah.
So now he's become a decent corner. He is a decent corner now. But because you want to flap your lips, and whenever you do get exposed, people are going to come on you. And that's what happened to Eli Apple. But to get back to the game, you made a big point about how their offense became very stagnant after Odell went down.
Mm-hmm.
After the big touchdown to Higgins, where he got away with, I thought it was the smoothest face mask I've ever seen. Like it was so quick, it was so fast. I can't blame the refs for missing it. I didn't see it in real time. I just thought Ramsey fell down.
Yeah.
And then they showed a replay. I'm like, oh, that was a super smooth cheating move right there. I can't even get mad at Higgins for that one.
Yeah.
So they get away with that. They get the touchdown. Very next drive, Stafford throws an interception where it goes off the rookie's hand, Serrano. It goes off his hands right into the cornerback for Cincinnati. I think the biggest play of the game was on that ensuing drive where Cincinnati can go in for another touchdown to really put some space between them, and Aaron Donald gets the sack on third down in the red zone. If they get a touchdown right there, I don't think the Rams come back from that.
Right.
Like if they get a touchdown right there, at that point, I think they would have went up by 14, I believe. So at that, if they go up by that much, I don't know if the Rams can come back with the way their offense was struggling at that point. Yeah. So Aaron Donald, everybody, is going to point to the last two plays of the game where he came through and pressured Burrow. But that sack on third down in the red zone after that interception might have saved the game for him for sure.
I agree with that. I agree. I thought he should have been MVP for sure. But I mean, you're not. That's another thing. Narrative. We talked about this before, but narrative with these awards is just it's the thing that everybody leans on more so. And I think it's less about production than it is a narrative. And Cooper Kupp's narrative was just flashier. I guess that's all it was. So of course, and I think we discussed this as well before, Chris. But defensive line, offensive linemen, those two sides of the ball, they don't get as much love as they should. So it's not going to happen. But Donald was the MVP for that game.
No, he was an absolute monster. I always tell people the reason the offensive line is not appreciated is because you can't put offensive line on your fantasy team.
Yes.
Like, there's no way. Now they might add it one day. You might be able to add like somebody who gets gets pancakes and whatnot. Maybe you can get a point for pancake or something like that. They'll come up with a way. But for right now, you don't have any fantasy team, so people don't appreciate it. I always compare the offensive line to oxygen. We don't see it. So a lot of times you just take oxygen for granted. Like it's just there, you breathe it, whatever. But that moment where you can't breathe, like where did the oxygen go? That's the offensive line. That moment when that quarterback can't breathe, but that running back has no holes, there's nowhere for him to go. That's when you realize how important the offensive line is. And the Bengals, like you mentioned earlier, they improved the offensive line. They'll be right there in the picture. Now it won't be easy because the AFC is stacked. You mentioned the Chiefs, the Bills, your Ravens. Once they're healthy, they'll be right back in the picture as well. Like they have a lot of teams. There's always a new team every year in the NFL. Some team comes out of nowhere that we didn't even know about to be good. So there's going to be that team as well. The AFC is going to be really hard. So the Rams is going to be tough for them because they are going to lose a lot of players. And it's not like they can replenish through the draft. I don't think they have a first round pick until our grandkids graduate. They're not going to be picking in the first round for a minute. So it's going to be tough for both of these teams to get back. So I definitely agree with Chris that it's wide open next year. We have no clue who should be the favorite going into next season at all.
Yeah, most definitely. That's going to be. I'm interested because the offseason is going to be a very telling time. I will be intrigued to see because I think because of the way that Cincinnati has played this year, I'm almost willing to bet that they're going to get at least one free agent on the offensive line to get to come there.
Yeah,
because
I think they have a lot of cap space as well.
Yeah, the way they play, it would make sense to just go ahead and try and get at least one or two free agents and build through the draft and just see what happens because. I told you this before, Chris. I really do believe that the one of the marquee matchups, at least for me, will be the Ravens Bengals for the next couple of years. That's going to be the matchup that I'm looking forward to seeing. So both teams healthy. That's going to be a problem. That's gonna be a problem, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. I feel bad for you because well, that headache that's gonna hurt.
Yes, sir.
That's gonna be anxiety ridden. Well,
Then
you
there
want to be
was
in that
some
position.
times in that second half where I couldn't. I was ready to turn the game off. I was like,
Yeah.
if they win, I said it a lot of times last week. I was like, I can't cope. Like if they win this chip, I'm not gonna be able to do it. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like shit, I'm not gonna hear the end of it. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad it played out the way it played out. But I agree, it's gonna be a scary run this season. Honestly, it's so weird because this is how these things always kind of play out. But the way this postseason played out, I'm looking forward to next season even more so than I could have imagined, because this
Yeah.
season was spectacular in a way that we haven't had in a while. As
Mm-hmm.
far as all these dark horses making their way through and really changing the way you perceive them as a team, as an organization. It's very rare for that to happen. Ask the Dolphins, ask ask a lot of these teams that have been struggling. It's hard to
Yeah.
sort of have that identity shift.
Yeah.
And I felt like we had a couple of those, even with the Titans. Like they showed that they are a force in this division that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people didn't anticipate. And I feel like that's another team that didn't have the opportunity to really show their best, and they got the
Yeah.
first seed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's just so many different narratives going into next season that you really gotta watch out for, which is always just super exciting.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
So
Speaking of
look, let me
Titans,
pitch something to y'all real quick,
okay.
I'll get back to you, Damian. But this season, the Bengals came out of nowhere from being a top 5 pick to sort of making this huge turnaround. If you had to close your eyes and pull a name out of a hat, what's one team you would nominate sort of for being the 2023 season Bengals, where they could just change the entire thing for themselves and really put themselves in a good position to sort of make those playoff runs?
The team that comes to mind for me isn't as bad as the Bengals were last year, but they didn't make the playoffs, but they have all the talent in the world. And I think some coaching decisions honestly kept them out the playoffs this year. Talking about the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Chargers have Justin Herbert is a monster. Like you think back to that last game of the regular season, the fact that they were in that game on so many 4th and 10s, 4th and 15, they made a touchdown on 4th and 21. Like some of the stuff that Justin Herbert is able to do with that offense is crazy. And that defense has talent. I think their coach is way too aggressive though. Like going for it on like 4th and 7 on their own 39 and stuff like that. Like, what are you doing? like even on Madden, you would stop me like, maybe I should come on, bro. Like, like there was a game earlier this year on a Thursday night against the Chiefs where they left at least 12 points on the board, if not more, because of being too aggressive and lost that game. So I think next year, if they tone it back with the dumb decisions of being over aggressive and that talent is there and healthy, that could be a team that can make a run for it for sure.
Most definitely. I think Chargers too, but I'm gonna say Denver. I think Denver is another team that could do it, especially if, like paying attention to some of the rumors. I, I don't know that they're gonna get Aaron Rodgers, but if they were to pull off Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, uh, uh, to get there, I think that's gonna be one of the teams that you look at most definitely and say is gonna can
That's a
have
good
that
pick, man.
Cinderella.
Good defense.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. They have a lot of good pieces. It's a good foundation to build on. So I'm interested to see what they're going to actually be able to do. I don't know that they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure that I'm willing to believe it. But even if they just don't get Aaron and they kind of build on what they have, I think Bridgewater is someone that can still play at that level that he's been playing at and bring him back in. I mean, even if they don't get if they decide to move on and let's say get one of these backup quarterbacks that we've discussed before, Chris, you try to go get one of these backup quarterbacks and plug them in like even if you were talking about Gardner Minshew, it'd be interesting to see what they do. It'd be
I
very
like that.
interesting.
I like that a lot. And listen, y'all not gonna be ready for this because this is not something you can expect me to say. But my pick for this, it pains me to say, but they were in the playoffs. They didn't deserve to be there. I'll make it frank. I think addition by subtraction, the
Oh,
Pittsburgh Steelers are gonna be much better next season than they were this season. I think their young core as far as defense and offense is exceptional. And obviously got a defensive player of the year out there in TJ Watt. If they're able to stay healthy and they're able to plug in someone that isn't the most sacked quarterback in NFL history, I'm almost positive, that they're going to make a big turnaround in a division that's already scary. I'm worried about that team in a way that a lot of people aren't. So that's my pick.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting. I'm going to be interested to see what they do at quarterback. Do they go with Mason Rudolph, or they brought in Dwayne Haskins last year? Do they, bring him up? Because somebody was a first round pick, so there's talent there.
Yeah.
But can you, bring the best out of him? So if they have a decent quarterback, they'll definitely be a good team. So that's a good pick.
Yeah,
for sure. So before I cut you off, do you remember what you was about to get into before we move on?
Yeah. So with Tennessee, you mentioned how they were the 1 seed, and they even went through injuries this year. Derrick Henry missed, second half of the season with that foot injury, and they were still able to become the 1 seed, but fall short again in the playoffs. Do you think that's a team that's going to be looking for a quarterback, or do they continue to go with Tannehill?
I personally believe that they're going to continue to stick with Tannehill. I don't see. I know it's popular to just blame it on him, but there's a lot of other spots you can look, right? Like, I still think that looking back, hindsight is 2020, but Julio didn't do anything for you this year.
Yeah, he can't stay healthy.
He couldn't stay healthy. And
Julio Jones is the Anthony Davis of the NFL. All the talent in the world, but just can't stay healthy. Like, you see the flashes, all the talent, but just can't stay healthy.
Yeah. I thought that, honestly, had they just stuck it out with Corey Davis, just brought him back and left him with Brown, like, I thought that would have been the way their run game stepped up and was able to continue what Derrick Henry was doing with him not being there.
Yeah,
it was really just their receivers, honestly, because AJ Brown was gone for a good second. So I don't know that this is on Tannehill. This is not strictly on. Now, he did look bad. He did look really bad.
The playoff game was bad.
Yeah, that was a bad game. But what he's done since he's been in Tennessee, I'm not willing to say move on just because of one bad game. Now, if this is a series of bad games, like you're saying, this is like the 6th or 7th one, consecutive one, where it's looking like, he's just Tannehill of old. Okay, that's fine. Go ahead and move on. But I don't see that with him. I don't see that with him. And it's very interesting to see the turnaround that he's made in his career to come back and play the way that he has been playing in Tennessee. So I think it'd be kind of stupid. I mean, but you already invested into him too. Like, they paid him a good, nice contract. So I think it would be a mistake all around to do that. But yeah, if he was someone that was just like consecutively, like, his games were consecutively bad, yeah, it would be a good idea to move on. But
and I think what makes that conversation so prevalent with him specifically is his playoff play. Like, during the regular season, he's a different beast. And I just feel like Dolphins Tannehill finds a way to show up when it comes postseason time, which is so weird because, like you said, even beyond giving him the contract, like, they doubled down on the offense in a way that a team that's historically been a lot of defense first and has a good defense. The fact that they doubled down on the offense for him, it kind of felt like, all right, now it's time to really show who you are. Like, it kind of felt like getting that first seed, this was your opportunity to really shine. And 2 picks, only 1 touchdown in that game. Obviously, big plays on the Bengals' part. Like, it wasn't like he was out there throwing terrible passes for the most part. Like, it was really big plays that came up with those picks. But
I give Eli Apple credit, man. He came up with a huge play in that game over time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I just feel like whenever it comes to that discussion, it's because of the postseason talk, and that amplifies everything. Like, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season if you had a career year, if that's how it ends up. So I feel like that's why we always end up back here with him. And in a lot of ways, you could argue is warranted. Like, after that game, you kind of come away feeling like, AJ Brown had 150 yards Like anybody else that's throwing him the ball could probably do a little bit more damage. So we'll see. I agree though. I don't think that they make a move. But if they were in these sort of trade talks with guys like, Russell Wilson, things like that, I feel like you can't go wrong. Like if you're able to land one of those guys and not get rid of too much from your defense, I don't know. It's sneaky good. Like they have a really good backup running back that was able to carry them. Maybe try to package him and a couple of other things to try to get one of those big name QBs. That's a really terrifying team if they do that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, man. So it's only right that we wrap up our Super Bowl talk by getting into these NFL honors. So I don't think we gotta go one by one and sort of admit who won these awards. We all know it's been out for a while now, but I think it's important that we look back on some of our predictions, and we got to take our L's and we got to take our dubs where we get them.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just gonna say off top, our offensive rookie of the year picks didn't look bad. It didn't look bad until people decided to have historic seasons. Shout out Jamar Chase.
Yes.
I had Mac Jones. You had Devontae Smith. Both guys that I feel like are going to be real productive players moving forward for these teams. And in a lot of ways, I won't be surprised if when we're redrafting, these guys are 1, 2, 3 as far as Jamar and the two names I just mentioned.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad about those at all. Next up, the only W on the entire preview picks. It's your boy right here. I picked Micah Parsons to be the defensive rookie of the year, and he ended up getting it. You had Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, which is another good sneaky pick. Didn't have the year that we thought he would, but that's because the Browns are a goddamn graveyard.
Bro, I was about to say Cleveland didn't have the year that anyone expected them to have. So yeah.
And it's hard to think of a time that they will have one of those years coming up. Funny enough. But can't be too mad about those. And then MVP picks, I had Mahomes, you had Stafford. That Stafford pick, it ain't looking terrible, bro. Like I feel like once again, if Rodgers and Brady didn't have the kind of years that they had, he would have gotten much more love. And I think he's the only other quarterback that did get a vote in that MVP voting. So good pick on your end. And then finally, our finals picks were just absolute garbage. I had Bucks versus Chiefs. You had Bucks versus Bills. None of that played out. But in a world, we could see those things happening again. So it's only right. I'm teeing us up right now. I got the doc ready. I got 3 columns. We're gonna go through these awards, and this is way too early of a prediction. I'm sure we'll end up revisiting this once the off season is over. But let's do the damn thing, man. This is one of the funner parts about sports. So let's get right into it. Who do you guys think in the 2023 season is gonna be your MVP?
Oh wow. Well, I just picked my surprise team, so I'm gonna go with their quarterback. I'm gonna go Justin Herbert, MVP next year.
That's a good one. That's a real good one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the one other thing that annoys me about this award, man, because it's just the quarterback position. We don't talk about anyone else. I might, you know what? I
don't do what I think you about to do.
You know what I want to do.
Don't do it. Don't do it, please. Jalen Hurts, God damn it.
I have all the confidence in the world to say Jalen Hurts. I have all the confidence in the world. I think I'm gonna give it to Lamar Jackson though. I think I'll give it to him. But don't be surprised when you hear Jalen Hurts is in the conversation for MVP.
I like Hurts, man. I like Hurts.
Yeah.
He destroyed my pick this year. Like when y'all played against us, he was going crazy. So.
Yeah, he was, man.
I was gonna say there's been a lot of comparisons, between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, and I think rightfully so. He's that kind of player. Sure. And on the passing end, once that catches up, scary thoughts. I was gonna go Lamar Jackson, but now I kind of feel like I can't. I just love that this is wide open with obviously Aaron Rodgers' future being so uncertain. I feel like if he ends up on any other scenario, You don't have the receiving core you have with the Packers, so it's kind of hard to imagine him doing that again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go real wild card here, man. But I mean, I guess it's a little safe given the Super Bowl. I'm going Joe Burrow. This is someone that I said I feel like didn't perform to the level that he could have. Coming back after a big knee injury, give him another year to sort of strengthen that and work on that. And working with, we talked about this a bunch of times during the season. What I think is one of the top 2 receiving cores in the NFL. Just a lot of young guys that are really good and have their roles on the team. I think CJ Uzama is a really underrated tight end as well. I hate to give them respect and love, but I got to go with Joe Burrow here.
Actually, let me change my pick real quick. Let me say Josh Allen.
How dare you? Let
me say Josh Allen.
That's a good one.
Josh Allen.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. That was my pick this year, was Josh Allen. I thought for sure he would come through with it, but they had like an inconsistent spurt there in the middle of the year for the Bills.
Yeah.
Losing to the Jaguars.
If they figure that portion of it out, because we were talking about this before, like for some reason it seems like there's always this little space and time for them where it's like a 4 or 5 game period. They always kind of seem to just drop it.
Yeah.
If they figure that part out, I think it's very possible he could win MVP. For sure, they could have won the Super Bowl had they gotten the job done. So yeah,
nice, man. Let's move on to the next one. I'm not gonna do rookies right now because that landscape is just out of the way. Offensive Player of the Year.
Ooh,
I think Kupp was a big surprise this season. So
Kupp was a big
we could go out of the box for this one. Go ahead, Damian.
I'm gonna go Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to have another big year. If the Colts don't, lose to the Jaguars the last week of the year, they could be a playoff team next year. So I'm with Jonathan Taylor.
I'm going to go Devontae Smith.
Oh,
because once they figured out their run game, his game took off. So I think they have the run game down pat. I'm gonna go Devontae.
I like that a lot. I'm gonna go with the homer pick. I think this is not thought about because of the way his season went this year. But Derrick Henry, man, this guy's a monster, and no matter what, he's gonna be sort of the lifeblood of that Titans team. So I just see him going off again. If he could stay healthy, hard to bet against him.
Yeah, he was on pace for 2,000 this year, so I definitely can see that happening again.
Yeah.
For sure. Defensive Player of the Year. This one is sneaky good. Sneaky good. I don't even have one to start it off. Like I was gonna be like, let me start it off, and like I have to think for a second. Like, give me a second here. Like, who do you go with here?
That's tough.
I think he's gonna come back. So you know what? Let's go Aaron Donald. I feel like I don't understand where that retirement talk came from. I feel like, with all due respect, he's not at that level yet, and I hope that's not controversial. I don't feel like he's had the accolades to sort of tie it up, retire right now and be like, well, I'm a surefire Hall of Famer. I feel like he's definitely an all-time great at his position, so that's kind of hard to understand. But he hasn't been in the league super long. Like I feel like he still has a lot of good years ahead of him. And more so than ever, I think he's going to have to step up for that team again. So I'm going Aaron Donald.
No, I can see that one. That's a good pick. I'm going to go with a homer pick, but it's outside the box. I'm going to go Marshawn Lattimore, cornerback for the Saints. He had a monster year this year. He was a beast on defense, and our defense got kind of overshadowed by the fact that our offense was so bad this year. But our defense is really good. I think they'll be good again next year. So I can see Marshawn Lattimore having a really big year, getting like 8-9 interceptions, getting Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I was actually going to say Marshawn Lattimore. But I'm going to, and I was thinking about Aaron Donald too before you said that. So I'm gonna go. Let me go Homer. Let me take a Homer pick. I'm gonna say Josh Sweat.
Okay,
that's a dark horse right there.
That's a real dark horse. Yeah, I think either Josh Sweat or Hargrave, one of those two, I can see making that type of leap. Let me go Sweat though.
I like it. I won't let you put 2 though. We're leaving it at Sweat. What were you gonna say, Damian?
No, someone else I could see being in that conversation for next year is definitely Michael Parsons.
Yeah. I was gonna say him, but
yeah, I know Eagles fan. You can't say nothing nice about the Cowboys.
God, man, it's like poison.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how I am about the Falcons. I can't say nothing nice about the Falcons.
Yeah. Like I'm actually doing better because I know like I have to be unbiased with my commentary, but I think Parsons is going to have this at least the same type of year or a little bit better this coming year. Mm-hmm. But I kind of want to go more of a dark horse.
For sure. The funniest thing about this dynamic is I feel like I become like the biggest Cowboys advocate, and I hate the Cowboys too. Like, but just to sort of balance it out, like I got to be the voice of reason here. But yeah, that's hilarious. This is just pull a name out of a hat and see what sticks. What's our Super Bowl predictions for the 2022 season? And we'll end off our predictions there.
Man.
Oh man. I got to go Buffalo for AFC. Like, I feel like they should have made it this year, honestly. Like, the fact that they let the Chiefs win that game still bothers me.
Yeah.
I had a parlay on that, too. Like, I was going to pick – I went 3-1 in the divisional round. That would have been my 4-0. I'd made some good money on that one. That still bothers me. But I think Buffalo – I think Buffalo for the AFC. For the NFC, man, I feel like the NFC, you really have no idea – because Rodgers could be out for Green Bay. We just mentioned the Rams could lose so many players. Tampa Bay, no Brady. Like, who's going to be that favorite in NFC? Yeah, there's so much movement that has to happen. So off top of my head, man, NFC. Man, I was going to say 49ers, but then we don't know about Trey Lance if he's really going to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
The NFC is tough, man. But I can't even go homer because the Saints don't know what we're gonna do at quarterback either. Like, it's tough. So I'm gonna go Bills. I'll let y'all go. I'm gonna go Bills right now for AFC. What y'all doing for the office?
For sure, that's great. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm actually gonna say the prediction Jonathan and I keep talking about. Eagles Bills. That's the one I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna go with it. Because it just makes sense to me. I think that the Eagles are going to do a lot of things that people don't think they're going to do this offseason in terms of sticking with Jalen Hurts, going after another wide receiver, whether that's Calvin Ridley or I think there was mention of Robinson from Chicago or someone. Just I think they're going to go get that number 2. So you go get that number 2. You pair him with Devontae Smith. You have Dallas Goedert. You have the run game. I think they're going to be able to take advantage of it with that great offensive line. I think they're going to be able to do it. So I'm gonna choose them. I'm gonna pick it.
I like it. I hated that you mentioned the Niners because I thought when I said it, everyone was gonna be like, "What?" I'm going Ravens versus Niners, the rematch. And the reason why I'm picking this is because I just feel like last year was a huge anomaly for us. I feel like there was so much that went wrong. And even with that, we somehow still almost made the playoffs. Yeah. I was going over the scenario with him, that last stretch of games. And as soon as I saw the Colts lose, I'm like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to find our way in. I just feel like offensively, we had a lot of struggles on top of the injuries. And just having guys come back for another year, develop in that system, I think is going to do a lot of things for us. And then defensively, we could only get better. I love the fact that my boy Calais is coming back. So it's just a lot to look forward to. And then for the Niners, I feel like Jimmy gonna pop a hole out of there and y'all could get something for him. Y'all could get something good. So I just feel like they have a lot to build on. And the fact that they made it as far as they did, really, I think says a lot about Deebo Samuel. Like he's a threat. He, in my opinion, more so than he gets credit for. He's a top 5 player in this league. And that's something that nobody wants to admit. But that's how high I am on him. So yeah, give me the Ravens versus the Niners.
And I'm gonna go with the homer pick, man. I'm gonna go Bills Saints. I think the Saints find a quarterback. Our defense is great, so we just gotta find a quarterback. Get Michael Thomas back at wide receiver. So I think that could make a big difference. But we just got a lot in flux right now, the new head coach and everything. But I'm gonna go home. I go Bills Saints.
That's
I
good.
like it.
We're
I
all
love that
homers.
none of our picks are like the same either, too. Like we're diversifying it out here. I like it.
Yeah, man. And real quick, based off what you just said, Chris, I think if the Niners are able to get a quarterback, even if they work with Trey Lance, um, if he's consistent enough, I actually think Debo Samuel could be the offensive player of the year.
Ooh, that's a good pick.
I think that's also another one that could be a sneaky pick.
It
So
ain't just receiving. Yeah, they're gonna have him
yeah,
running the ball.
he's
Yeah,
doing everything. Yeah, so I don't know. I think if Trey Lance can be better than what Garoppolo was this year, I think that most definitely wouldn't be a
Yeah.
hard scenario to see.
I love it. So before we get into our little boxing talk to sort of wrap us up, on this show every week, we love to have this little segment called "What the fuck." So we're on the sidelines here, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. You could go last, just so you could get a hang of the segment. I'm gonna start us off, and I hope this isn't stealing yours, Derrick. But my what the fuck out goes out to one woman that's a powerful woman, someone that we've never said their name on this show. I'm pretty sure most sports shows have never said their name on their shows.
Yeah.
Former Attorney General Loretta Lynch. How dare you side with the NFL and sign up to defend them against one Brian Flores and the lawsuit that he brought up against the NFL? Tasteless. The fact that you're a woman of color and you're going up against a cause that is very righteous in a league where there's only still now, if I'm not mistaken, two black head coaches, if I got that right. Um, Disgusting. I can't believe it. And the fact that, you know, it's just it's a pure NFL move to get a black woman as the person that they're gonna sort of lead the defense with. That's a pure PR move. Like that is not coming from trying to find the best person to do it for you. That's coming from trying to find a figurehead to make to appease those that are on the opposite side of the truth. So I just can't believe that that was a job that as an attorney, she looked at and said, you know what, I want to take that. Disgusting. And once again, it would have been a point that I saw brought up was the fact that, you know, Brian Flores representation is not black at all. It's an all white firm. And I get why you would want those things. But in my opinion, the NFL doing this is much more egregious a headline than that was. And Flores got flack for that. And when this came
Yeah.
out, it was almost like, well, this was the right move. They got the right person to defend them. It's just tasteless on both ends, if you ask me, and tone deaf because you're going to try to get this woman to defend that you're doing the right thing when your practices clearly scream the opposite. So I hope it works out. I sadly don't think it's going to work out for Flores. We already see all the head coaching spots are filled up, which is blasphemy, in my opinion. I don't care that he has this lawsuit. Someone should have picked him up. And yeah, that's all I got to say with that. What the fuck is wrong with you, Loretta Lynch?
Yeah, I think mine this week is gonna be Matt Stafford for two reasons. For two reasons. Um the idea that he has a that he's a Hall of Famer now. Like that was this narrative this whole week that he is a Hall of Famer, which I don't think that it would be beyond comprehension that he could actually get in at some point, but the thought that he got in based off winning the Super Bowl, that he wasn't even the reason why they won the Super Bowl, I think is very interesting, because it's that he just got the Super Bowl and now he's a Hall of Famer. Because I mean, based off that theory, Nick Foles is a Hall of Fame quarterback as well. So I don't agree with it. I don't think that he is automatically, and I definitely don't think he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But the bar is set so low now for the Hall of Fame. I can see it actually happening. I just don't like the idea that he will likely have this uh, 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 narrative now that he is a Hall of Famer based off of winning a Super Bowl that he wasn't the reason for winning the Super Bowl. But also the fact that he, you know, during the championship parade, let a
I thought this was what you were gonna lead with.
Nah, I wanted to close on it, but looked at a lady fall off the stage and walked away. Like, I mean, I get it a little bit because I mean, he's not a medical personnel, but you still try to see if you can go help her. That's what I would think. You know, just go ahead and do that. But I will say kudos to him and his wife. They are going to be paying for her medical bills. She broke her spine, so you know, yeah, fractured it. So you know, so I think that's something that is good for them that they are actually going to pay for the medical bills and her camera equipment because she was a photographer. So they are going to pay for all that. So, you know, kudos to them. So I think balance the scales out a little bit on that. But if minding my business was a person, it would be
I was gonna say we need to get that Mike Tyson soundboard.
Yes.
My back, spine.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be mine for the week.
Nah, you guys both came with two very good ones. For yours, Chris, it's tough, man, because as a lawyer, this might have been her big break, right? Could be the opportunity that she was waiting for. And I'm pretty sure the money attached to it is also something that's not easy to ignore. But also from a standpoint, you don't want to be the token representative.
Yeah.
And for me, it will be so tough in that position. Like, do I take this job to be the one who represents and shows other young Black women that they can be here one day? Or is it bad for me to take this job because now it shows that maybe I'm not standing with my people? It's just such a between a rock and hard place position to be in. But I definitely see your view on that. And with yours with Stafford, yeah, people saying he's a Hall of Famer now really irks my nerves. Like the Hall of Famers should be consistently great throughout their career.
Yeah.
Now Stafford's never been trash. He's never been somebody who I considered a trash quarterback. But he's got one Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Like for you to be a Hall of Famer, I'm gonna need more than one Pro Bowl. Now there's some years in there that you could argue he should have made the Pro Bowl. There's a few Eli Manning years that they probably could have gave to Stafford where Eli Manning got in. But for him to be considered a Hall of Famer just because his team won a Super Bowl and he happened to be part of it. And I think another reason is that they're comparing him to Jared Goff. And they're like, oh, look how much better he was than Jared Goff. Jared Goff is trash.
Yes.
You shouldn't be like, it shouldn't be, I'm better than Staff. I'm better than Goff. So now I'm in the Hall of Fame. No, you're better than Goff. So that means you're an NFL quarterback.
Yes.
That's all that means. So to say he's a Hall of Famer now is outright ridiculous, man. So yeah, both of you guys had great takes. For my what the fuck, I'm gonna go basketball. So they had a big trade. Ben Simmons and James Harden get traded for each other. And Ben Simmons hasn't played all year, right? He's been out because of back problems, his mental health, hasn't played all year. Gets traded to Nets. I'm expecting him to play right away. As soon as he gets off the plane, he should be ready to go. He should be in the best shape of his life. And they say he can't play because he's not in basketball shape. What else were you doing? What else were you doing during this time where you weren't playing? You should be in the best shape of your life.
Yes.
And you can't judge mental health. So I don't know as far as how much it took to him to get to a good mental place. But it doesn't take 24 hours a day. You go see your therapist for 1-2 hours, if it's weekly or 3 times a week, or however it is, and then you go train. He should be shooting 80% from the free throw line. He should be ready to run a marathon, everything. And the fact that he's not playing yet, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing during this time where you're not ready to play? It works like you're getting paid millions of dollars to play basketball. You're not ready to play basketball?
Yeah.
Like, what else is going on? Oh, that's just crazy to
me. And he said he hopes that he does play against Philly.
That part, come on. You hope?
What does that mean?
If you're healthy, I'm ready to play. You hope? Which means they're going to come up with some reason for him not to play because he knows how bad those fans are going to treat him. So they're going to come up with some reason for him not to play.
I'm willing to bet that he's going to pull a Kyrie. You know how Kyrie refused to play in Cleveland? When he was in Boston, he was like, all of a sudden there's a knee soreness or and then all of a sudden the game after that, I'm good. And then once he left us in Boston, now it's don't like the vibe. Don't like the it's the only time he played. The first time he played was during the COVID games where there were no fans in the arena, and now all of a sudden,
he still had to go and do the sage.
Seance. Seance. I'm sorry, sage. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. But I think that's what he's going to end up doing now. I think for the rest of his career, there's going to be a time where it's time to go play Philly. Something's going to pop up.
Yeah.
So I think he's just preparing that. And Kyrie is now your teammate, so go figure.
The most temperamental big three in the history of the league. I can't wait for people to start tossing bottles of lotion onto the court when KD comes back. It's going to be great. And I just wanted to say real quick, I think I mentioned this last week. I got to say it again because this line was too good to not have a co-host hear it. My brother, I just wanted to say, I thought coming to New York adds to those mental health issues. If you're not in shape, just say it's mental health. Just keep going on that line. Why you gotta out yourself as basically not doing shit and losing 19 million for it? So can't believe it. And the fact that coming into the season, me and Derrick had a whole 40-minute rant about Ben Simmons and Kyrie, and the fact that they end up on the same team. It's just so appropriate. Cosmic karma of the highest order for Kyrie, because that's what he needs. So hilarious. Yeah, man. So that's awesome. I just quickly wanted to touch on this before we wrap up. It was recently announced that they're working towards signing George Kambosos up against Vasily Lomachenko for all the damn marbles, all the belts, except for that one that we don't talk about that's over there with that one guy that not a lot of people like to watch fight, but Devin Haney, he does his thing. He's there. Are you surprised by this move? Because I'm going to be real. I thought personally, I don't care what's going on with Teofimo. You wait for that rematch. Like Kambosos shouldn't really be in this spot. And in my opinion, they botched the first opportunity to get a big rematch when Teofimo won the belts against Lomachenko. And now they did it again with another matchup that sort of you want to see it play out again. And now they're and let's be real, this feels like a slaughter. That's what it feels like to me. So what are your thoughts on that potential matchup?
I like it as far as getting two people together that we want to see. I like that aspect of it. You mentioned Haney, the guy with the belt over there. I feel bad for Haney because I thought we were going to get, because the last fight was on the zone, I thought it'd been an easy one to make as far as having Eddie Hearn take care of, having Haney versus Kambosos. And with Teofimo, I don't know what's going on with him and his team. I know he's going through a lot of personal issues, with his marriage ending and stuff like that, and that's been affecting him. But even after the fight, Kambosos was like, hey, let's do it again. Do it in Australia, 8,000 seats. And he was hesitant. And it's like, bro, like, if you really that dude, and you feel like he felt like he won that fight, he felt like he won 10, 12 rounds, and he thought it was 13 rounds, obviously affected after by the punches in the fight. he thought he won the fight. Why wouldn't you jump on that? Yeah, let's do the rematch. Australia, if it's going to be, even if you don't fill up 8,000 seats, even if it's 50, 60,000, the money you make from that and the money you would get from a rematch, because everybody be willing to see it. It took forever for the first fight to happen because of that bootleg network Triller couldn't get stuff together. So it took forever for them to do that. You finally get the match to happen. It's a really good fight. Why not jump on that and have the rematch? So I think Kambosos, they probably just didn't want to wait on Teofimo. They was like, we don't know what's going on with him. Let's go ahead and move on and make something happen. So that's why they got Loma. I really wish Haney would have got that shot. I do like watching Haney fight. I know people call him pillow hands, and a lot of people don't like him. He's a young dude, so he says some things that are just what young people say. Like, it's not. I think people should give him a little bit of a leeway. Like, he's 22. Like, he's gonna say some dumb stuff sometime, and he's not gonna have the maturity of other people. But I think that this will be a good fight. If Loma shows up and fights like he did in his last fight, I can see a good fight. If he comes into this one hesitant like he did against Teofimo, Kambosos is going to win easily. So he has to have his mindset ready to be aggressive. or he'll go in there and lose. But it could be a very good fight if he comes in there ready to be aggressive with an aggressive mindset.
For sure, man. I'm super excited for it for all the reasons you said. Boxing is known to not make the fights that people want to see, and let's call it what it is, man. Kambosos is a star after that performance, regardless of what people think or how nobody really knew of him before that fight, which is crazy to me. Like, you just say you don't watch boxing if you don't know who he is. Just say you don't watch boxing. But the fact that he got catapulted, I love it for him. He showed up big in that spot, and he deserves it. You know, he did what he had to do to earn that shot. I agree with you, though. I feel like that matchup, skill for skill, is a much better matchup and a much more favorable matchup for your champion, your triple champion in Kambosos. I feel like a lot of people sleep on Haney because everyone that doesn't watch boxing says that he fights like Mayweather. And I can get it because he's a defensive fighter, but pump the brakes a little bit. Like, nobody is like Mayweather. Like, it's another level. And I agree. He's a defense first fighter, and he's very, very talented. Like, don't get that mixed up. But as far as a close competitive matchup for your champion that you're trying to build, that you're trying to get the casuals to, get behind, I feel like it's so weird. It feels like they almost just like want to hit the reset button. And I'm honestly surprised that that you're a little higher on Kambosos than I am, because I feel like he still has so much to prove. And on that night against Teofimo, I feel like he showed up, and it was sort of a perfect storm. Like, he showed up his best version of himself, and Teofimo showed up sort of at his worst. And it still was a debatable fight as far as the final scorecards. I agree. I think Lomachenko had a lot of demons to sort of account for in his last fight against Comey, and he, blew a lot of those questions out of the water. I'm really interested to see how this one goes, because I feel like it's rare that you find such a new champion that everyone's like, oh, this person's dominant. And there's a big chance that if everything goes right for Lomachenko, he shows up and just looks a step ahead of him the whole fight. I don't know what that does for somebody like Teofimo. It almost separates him from that Lomachenko rematch even more. So I like it. I hope that the fight gets made, or a fight gets made, because that's how it is with boxing. Sometimes you just gotta hope something happens, and we don't get some random dude that works in a Starbucks on his off time fighting for the belt. But good matchup. You love to see those good matchups, marquee matchups, and it's gonna be a damn war, I would say. Now, last thing I want to ask you, this one's out of left field. I want to see how deep you are into this boxing game.
Okay.
Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor here in MSG. I'm a New York guy, Puerto Rican myself. Nobody talks about Amanda Serrano. Let me just give you this stat right here. There's two people on this earth, in this world, in history, that have done this feat. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, to become a champion in 7 different weight classes. One man did 8, and that is Manny Pacquiao. He's on that shirt right there. You want to flex that out? You want to flex that out? Yes, sir. The other person that has done that.
Tell you that much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The other person that has done that is Amanda Serrano, moving all the way up from 113 all the way up to 135. I'm super excited for this fight, but my question isn't about the fight. I want your pick too, but my question is, how come this fight is not 12 rounds and 3 minutes? How do you feel about that situation in boxing, and how is it ever going to get fixed if now's not the time?
From what I hear, they were trying to get 3-minute rounds, and Katie Taylor, her side turned that down. From what I hear, I think I was watching the Zone the other day. I was watching the boxing show with Akin Barak, and they were saying that Katie Taylor is the one who turned down 3-minute rounds. And the thing is, it's hard to judge women's boxing because of that. The rounds go by so fast that you don't have that last bit where somebody can turn the tide. We've seen that happen in men's boxing so many times, where it's a close round, and that last minute, somebody goes on a run and they win the round. But women's boxing, you don't get that because there's not that last spurt to happen, right? You don't see somebody get tired. So I do think they should go to 3-minute rounds. That can change the next big fight. Clarissa Shields, I think, has the power to change that in her upcoming bouts probably, and make these 3-minute rounds. It should be 12 rounds too. Like, I'm with you. I don't get why this would be 10. Like, it's too big a fight. This is a huge fight. You mentioned Serrano being the only woman and one of only 2 people in history to have, belts in 7 different weight classes. is going against Katie Taylor, who's been one of the most dominant professionals we've ever seen. This fight is like the equivalent of, honestly, it's like Pacquiao Mayweather if it happened earlier. Like it's that type of bout. And for it not to be at the highest of 12 rounds, 3 minutes per round, is a travesty. So I definitely agree that it has to change. And hopefully Carissa Shields, as she's getting it back into boxing now, will have that change in her fights. We'll have somebody like Alyssa Baumgardner, who's really good, one of my favorite female fighters. Hopefully she'll advocate for this as well. I know she's talked about it. Hopefully those champions going forward will get this change. But Katie Taylor kind of made me look at Katie Taylor the side eye a little bit. Like, really, you want 3-minute rounds? You scared of that? So yeah, it's it's something that made me look at her a little sideways. But I agree with you; it should be changed for sure.
Thank you for that nugget. I had no idea that was even a part of the negotiation. So that's really cool to hear that Serrano and her team stepped up and asked for that. A lot of people talk shit about Jake Paul. I feel like in a lot of ways he's done so much for her specifically that I'll deal with the bullshit. Like, we'll call it what it is. He fights people that shouldn't be in the ring with him based on the level of experience he has, but the fact that he's able to support her and put her on this position to get this fight, because this fight wouldn't have happened without Jake Paul, which is ridiculous to say. Like, my hair is standing up saying it because I hate this guy. I don't want to give him any credit, but I will admit it where you got to admit it. Got to give him the credit where it's due, and I think she wouldn't be in this spot without him. So really excited about that. I'm gonna be there in person because his story. You got to find your way there. I'm actually gonna be going with Katie Taylor though, and that's my pick officially because of the rule set. Because it's 2 minutes. She's such a offensive pace first fighter, and Amanda Serrano is too. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the speed is really gonna make the difference there, especially with those 2-minute rounds. Now, if you gave me 12 rounds, 3 minutes, I'm picking Amanda Serrano all day just because I feel like she has the tools to outlast somebody like Katie Taylor. But being able to sort of step out in front, like you said, and sort of play that front runner. But I think this is going to be a closer fight than a lot of people are sort of projecting it to be, because everyone looks at Katie Taylor's run through the sort of ranks of being an Olympic boxer to going on to being pro. She's been dominant as hell. But let's call it what it is. I feel like to a certain extent, she finds herself getting hurt in a lot of these fights and finds herself in a spot where you feel like, this fight shouldn't have been this close. And when you're fighting somebody who's historically great, as Amanda Serrano has been, I think there's a lot of room for some madness. So I'm really excited about this one. But I would say my pick as of right now has to be Katie Taylor.
Hey, great minds, man. When I heard that she's the one, or her team was the one who didn't want 3-minute rounds, I'm like, okay, they see an advantage in having 2-minute rounds. So I can see her winning. I think it's gonna be a great fight. Great fight. I can't wait for it. Even this weekend's a good boxing weekend. We got Amir Khan and Kell Brook. Should have happened 5-6 years ago, but we getting that one this weekend. So I'm looking forward to the fights, man. But that one's gonna be a good one. I'm going Katie Taylor. I'm gonna go split decision. Katie Taylor.
Nice. I like that. And just real quick, just because you mentioned Kell Brook, I got to give a bonus what the fuck, and we can move on. Sorry, Derrick.
Yeah, man.
My bonus what the fuck. I saw a clip today of Kell Brook finishing up a training session and wringing out his shirt into a fucking. I'm saying this for you, Derrick, by the way, because this is a typical why are you telling me this, Chris moment. But this man wringed out his shirt into a beer mug, and then the guy that he told him to do it, like he's holding it, he's showing it. It was about this much of just straight sweat. He's like, I'm gonna sell it on eBay. And then Kell Brook goes, drink it. And this man just downs another grown man's sweat on camera out of a beer mug. Like, that's my what the fuck. I don't even know the dude's name. He's someone in his camp. Seek that video out because
I will not.
That is NSFW, my friend. That's some shit that y'all could keep on the dark parts of Reddit.
This is the reason why COVID is not going anywhere. I'm convinced because people are willing to do stupid stuff like that. I'm good. That's
gross. Like, I don't care how much you're paying me. I don't care how big a fan I am of you. Like, you're not. I'm like, I remember I was at this is back when the New Orleans Pelicans were the Hornets, and Chris Paul threw his headband into the crowd, and somebody was so excited to catch him. I'm like, I don't want this man's sweaty headband. I think he got finished playing the game. And at the time, I'm somebody who was like had hoop dreams at the time. And I'm like, and Chris Paul is my favorite player. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's like, it's not what I'm trying to do in my life is have somebody sweaty headband. So to go to extra level of drinking another man's sweat, that, oh my God. Yeah, that's
disgusting. Disgusting. Anything else we want to add on the NBA side of things going into the All-Star break? We're all good, guys.
Just excited for the second half of the year. I think the NBA is going to be really good after the All-Star break with everything that's going on, especially the Eastern Conference. It's been a long time since the Eastern Conference was better than the West.
Yes.
The Eastern Conference is really deep this year.
Yeah, man. I want to brag on my Celtics real quick. You guys that all got down on the Celtics around October, November, you know, they were inconsistent, losing games they shouldn't be losing. Now they're winning games that they should be winning, and also they have one of the best defenses. I think right now is ranked number 1 in the league, if I'm not mistaken. And offenses, I think I want to say they're top 5 or something like that. Top 5, top 10. So just wait. Like, there's no reason to keep thinking that teams are going to be what they are at the beginning of the season. Some teams are, but a lot of teams aren't, you know, and I'm glad to see that they are where they are. And the Lakers are struggling like I want. So, you know, it's a beautiful day.
Yeah, man. I'm just going to say something that nobody on this show will ever say but me. But shout out my boy, Josh Giddey, down in OKC, doing his damn thing. Let's just talk about it. Please, if you guys don't watch these games, because I know nobody does, respectfully, I'm the only one tuning in on a weekly basis to watch the OKC Thunder play. But I will say, this man's cross-court vision and passing ability is something that I haven't seen in the league in a very long time. Like, this really reminds me of like dominant Ricky Rubio early on in his career, where he's driving the lane and no looking to the corner at least 6 times a game and getting wide open shots for guys in those spots, which is obviously the sweet spot in today's NBA. I was high on him, but I was also a little like, why did we pick him? Just based on what we needed and the fact that Kuminga was still on the board. But now I'm walking all that back. Like, I see it 100%. The fact that this dude is 19, just so much props to this man. And the first rookie to ever, besides Oscar Robertson, to get 3 triple doubles in a row. This man is going to be really good, and nobody's going to know about him even as he's getting his second season. So really watch out for this guy, because I really feel like him and Shea is the backcourt of the future of this team. So super excited about that.
Most definitely.
Good, man. My Pelicans, we're going to be trying to get that 10th spot for the play-in. You got CJ McCollum now. CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram are a good combination. I don't want to see Zion until next year. They've had so many reports about everything that's going on with him. Just get him healthy, lose a few pounds, come back next year, and I think that team will be really good with a core of CJ, BI, and Zion for next year. But we'll be fighting for the 10th spot. Maybe you'll see us in the play-in this year. I don't know.
Let me ask you about that. Do you think that's possible?
What, to get Zion healthy?
Yeah.
I think it's possible. Like, we saw him last year play like 65 games. So I think it is possible. And we've seen players like this before. Joel Embiid missed his first 2 years, and he's still not the healthiest guy, but he is playing most of the year now. So that's what I want from Zion, just to play most of the year. We saw the potential. He averaged 27 points a game last year. So when you see that potential, you can't just give up on it. And he's a one of one. Like, the type of player he is so crazy. So I just hope to see him next year with CJ and BI. We add a point guard. You know, we let Lonzo Ball go for some chips and some annihilators. But hopefully, so hopefully we get a real point guard next year, because that still hurts me that we let him go for that cheap. But I think that CJ, what I've seen so far from CJ and BI, they're a real good combination together. So hopefully that's something you can watch out for if you're looking for a random game to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think the Lonzo Ball thing made no sense to me. I mean, even if you let him walk, you find a way to get Alex Caruso.
Yes, you find a way to get something back. To get back Tomas Zatoransky and Garrett Temple.
Yeah.
What? And the thing is, we end up just letting Zatoransky go Garrett Temple's still on the team, but he don't get much time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
come on, man. It's just Garrett Temple's an LSU guy, so maybe you bring him back home, but it just made no sense at all. I was just I thought it was an error. Like when it first happened, I saw the alert come on my phone that Lonzo Ball went to Chicago and this is what we got back. I thought for sure somebody made a mistake. I was like, ain't no way we just let him go for this. No way.
Yeah.
And I was like, people back home, I'm calling. I'm like, this can't be real. Like I had this gotta be a mistake. Y'all are local. Let me know what the local reports are. This can't be true. It was like, nah, bro, it's true.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
One quick word, real quick. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
on Zion. I don't. And obviously, because he hasn't talked so much. I mean, he hasn't played. So much of the talk around him is about what we know. Yes. But as far as the kind of talent he is, like I've never seen a man jump out of their fucking shoes. Like my man's jumped out of his shoes at Duke. I really feel like he's on another level athletically, and like you said, averaging big numbers when he does play. I think he's always been compared to LeBron, and he's not that guy because nobody is that guy. But I think his game can really be something special. And like you said, if he's taking this time very seriously, like a guy like Joel Embiid, who all signs point to this man plays like a guard and he's a dominant center. So if you give him those time to develop those guard skills, I think, like you said, there's a lot of big upside if we could keep everyone in that crew healthy. Because last week we were talking about it. Don't watch last week's episode. We were very, very hard on this trade. But I just feel like the fact that a lot of these guys end up on that injury reserve is really going to hurt you guys in the long term. But I agree. If they could find a way, and I don't think they will. That's the sad part. But if they could find a way to try to slow down everyone and sort of pump the brakes and say, we're going to get as far as we can this year, but we're not even trying to go and get Zion back. Like, I feel like that's the right move. Will it happen? I don't think so. Ownership is a little greedy. They want to try to contend every time they get the chance, but something to look forward to in the future.
You're going for a 10th spot for what? Exactly. But that's what we're doing. So
yeah, most definitely. Go ahead and take it away, Chris.
Yeah, man, this has been a real fun one. Once again, Damian, thank you so much for coming on. I just want to lead by saying, as always, before we give out our socials, follow the brand first, man. It's right there in the corner. I know you see it. OTS Media Co. on all platforms, as well as OTS Media on YouTube. Make sure you check us out. We have so many shows, lifestyle shows. We got shows covering all different kind of sports. MMA Archive is back this weekend. I mean, what is there to complain about? Only good stuff coming from OTS and only up from here too. So please tune in, especially to the On the Sideline guys Instagram page. I just want to say, I'm going to be back on track with these bets. I'm going all in this weekend, and I'm going to really sort of push my bets out there so that you guys can all tail me and see. Let's win together, baby. I'm all about finding these right lines and finding the right spots to get some W's. So, hey, who knows? Maybe even you'll see some of Damian's picks on there, or some of Derrick's picks on there. I'm trying to get Derrick on FanDuel, man. I told him, look, we could get $50 each. You just sign up with mine. You know what I'm saying? We good.
So I get that little easy $50 right there, bro.
I'm with it.
Yes, sir.
I'm with it.
So you're gonna hear a lot more from us on that end soon. But you could check me out on Instagram at Chris Negron _ as well as on Twitter at Negron MMA. Looking forward to keep pushing out that MMA content on that Twitter specifically, but also, staying as well-rounded as we can. NFL is over now. We got only the NBA to focus on. And I think that's a little underrated part of my game on this OTS media platform. So looking forward to getting into that a little bit more. But Damian, why don't you tell us all those socials again and get those people to your sites?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So thank you again for having me on. Had a really good time with you guys, and I really enjoyed this. You can follow me on all social media platforms at The Real Deal WDA. That's The Real Deal, W as in whiskey, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha. For my work, my podcast is called The Real Deal with Damian Adams. So when you go to your favorite podcast platform, put the full thing. The Real Deal with Damian Adams, like a pimp named Slickback. Put the full thing. You'll definitely be able to find it. The other podcast I do is called the 3rd and 3 podcast. So go ahead and search for both of those podcasts, The Real Deal with Damian Adams and the 3rd and 3 podcast. And also 3rd and 3, we have a website, 3rd and 3podcast.com. I wrote an article about the Ben Simmons trade on there. So you can go check that out to get my full thoughts on that trade. So the real deal with Damian Adams, 3rd and 3 podcast and 3rd and 3podcast.com. And if you lose track of all that, just follow me at the real deal WDA and you'll see all that there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we'll tag you in the stuff as well, the videos and everything like that, so everybody can still get that. You can follow me at Derrick_OTS. That's DERRICK, the black way to spell it. But like Chris said,
I had to
love it. But like Chris said, please follow the brand at OTS Media Co. All social media platforms. OTS Media on YouTube, and check out the website otsmediaco.com. You can check out all the articles, all the shows that we have on there. We are bringing some of your favorites back. Fans will be back this spring. I know you guys have been asking about that, so that will be back this spring. And please rate and review. Like that's how we are able to climb charts and stuff like that. But rate and review. Let us know what you guys think. We love hearing from you guys. And want to know what your thoughts are, how you see that we can improve in what areas and all that stuff. So just hit us up and let us know. So thank you guys for watching and or listening. Damian, again, thank you for joining us, and we will catch you guys next week.
Yes, sir. Peace. Have a good one, y'all.